I left because I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. It's not my fault. I had to choose myself over staying in something that was falling apart. I walked away because I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fix something that was broken beyond repair. Don't blame me for the truth being too hard to face. Sometimes, walking away is the most courageous act of love you can do for yourself. I left not because I wanted to, but because I had to in order to protect my peace. You don't get to blame me for leaving when you were the one who made staying unbearable. I chose to leave because I knew that love wasn't supposed to feel like this. Leaving wasn't easy, but it was necessary. You pushed me to a point where I had no other choice but to walk away from something that was never meant to last. You can say I gave up on us, but the truth is, I gave up on trying to make a broken relationship work. I left because I had no more pieces of myself to offer. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because I had no other choice but to protect my heart from the constant hurt. You made me choose between love and survival, and I chose me. You might think I left without warning, but the truth is, I stayed longer than I should have. You didn't see it, but I was already leaving in my heart long before I walked out the door. I left not because I wanted to, but because I had to. When you stop fighting for something that doesn't serve you, you realize that leaving is the only way to move forward. The hardest part wasn't leaving, it was realizing that I had to leave in order to keep my dignity intact. You pushed me to the point where staying was no longer an option. You can blame me for walking away, but deep down, you know you were the one who made this decision for both of us by not showing up when I needed you most. I left because I couldn't stay in a place where I was always giving more than I received. Don't blame me for wanting balance when you only offered imbalance. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is leave. I didn't want to leave, but I realized that staying would have kept us both stuck in a cycle of hurt. It wasn't just one thing that made me leave. It was the culmination of everything that you did and didn't do. Don't blame me for having enough of the pain you created. You can't blame me for walking away when you've been walking away from me for months without even realizing it. I just had the courage to admit it first. Leaving wasn't a sign of weakness. It was the ultimate act of strength. I chose to leave because I knew that staying meant losing myself in a relationship that no longer made sense. It's not easy to leave someone you once loved, but sometimes you have to in order to find yourself again. I'm not sorry for choosing me over a love that no longer felt right. You can say I gave up, but the truth is, I never gave up on love. I gave up on the idea that love meant staying in something that was only causing me pain. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because you made it clear that I didn't belong in a place where I was constantly giving more than I was getting. I walked away because I needed to protect my mental health. You didn't realize it, but your actions were pushing me further away every day. I had no other choice. You can blame me all you want, but the reality is, you made me feel like I was invisible. And when someone starts to feel invisible, they can't help but walk away to reclaim themselves. Leaving wasn't about finding someone better, it was about finding myself again. You took so much from me, and I had to leave in order to remember who I was. I didn't walk away because I wanted to hurt you. I did it because I had to stop the cycle of self-sacrifice for the sake of a love that wasn't healthy anymore. Sometimes walking away is the only way to stop the pain. I had to leave because staying was only going to make both of us suffer more. I didn't leave because I didn't care, but because I realized that my care for myself had to come first. You made me realize that some love is not meant to stay. You can blame me if you want, but the truth is I'm leaving to save myself from becoming someone I don't recognize anymore. The love we had is no longer enough to keep me here. I left because I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't change what was broken, and so I chose to leave the past behind and move on to a better future. You can blame me for leaving, but understand that it's not about escaping. It's about walking away from something that was no longer bringing me joy or peace. Leaving was never easy, but staying was worse. I had to make a choice between my happiness and the constant weight of trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. I tried to love you, I really did, but somewhere along the way, you lost yourself, and in turn, you lost me. Don't blame me for walking away when it was your actions that led me to this moment. Leaving was never easy, but it became necessary when I realized that my worth was being diminished in the process of staying. It's not your fault. No, it's not mine either. But we're both here, staring at the aftermath. You have to understand that it's not about me giving up on you. It's about me giving up on a dream that was never really real. You've pushed me to this point, and now I'm just letting go. When you push someone to their limits, don't be surprised when they finally decide to step away. I tried to make it work, but you kept testing my patience until I had nothing left to give. You may not see it, but I left because I had to choose myself. You made it impossible for me to stay and still feel whole. Don't blame me for needing cuts when you kept feeding me chaos. I never wanted to leave you, but you gave me no choice. The more you ignored my needs, the more I realized how much I needed to heal. Sometimes leaving is the only way to survive. I left because staying meant slowly losing myself. I gave and gave, but you were always too busy taking. Now that I'm gone, don't act surprised. This is the outcome of everything you did. You can blame me if you want, but deep down, you know the truth. It wasn't me who changed, it was us. And now I'm left with no other option but to walk away from a love that no longer exists. When love feels like a battlefield, it's hard to keep fighting. I tried to stay, but you made it impossible to fight for something that was already lost. So don't blame me for leaving. This was your doing. I didn't leave because I didn't care. I left because I cared too much to watch myself drown in a relationship that wasn't lifting me up anymore. Don't hold it against me. It's what you pushed me to do. You can say I abandoned you, but the truth is you abandoned me long before I walked out the door. You gave up on us, and I was just the one who had the strength to admit it. The decision to leave wasn't a moment of weakness, but one of strength. I chose to walk away, not because I didn't love you, but because I loved myself enough to know when enough was enough. You may never understand why I left, and that's okay. But I can't stay in a place where I'm constantly fighting for something that you're not even willing to fight for. I didn't leave because I didn't want to fight for us. I left because I realized I had been fighting alone. You gave me no choice but to give up on something I couldn't fix by myself. Leaving isn't about giving up on love. It's about saving myself from drowning in a love that was suffocating me. Don't blame me for knowing when to swim away. I gave you everything I had, but you kept taking without giving back. Eventually, I realized I wasn't being loved the way I needed to be, and that's when I knew I had to go. Sometimes you have to leave the situation to understand how toxic it really was. Don't blame me for walking away. Blame the situation that pushed me to my breaking point. I didn't leave because I didn't care, but because I realized that sometimes walking away is the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and I needed to do that for me. You can't blame me for leaving when it was your actions that made me feel like I was never enough. You wore me down until I had no strength left to stay. In the end, I left because I realized my peace was more important than any love that caused me pain. I didn't choose this, but you left me with no other option. When someone tells you they're done, don't just assume they gave up too soon. Sometimes They leave because they were fighting a battle that was never meant to be theirs to fight alone. I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I left because I loved myself enough to walk away from a relationship that drained me. I'm not sorry for putting myself first. It's easy to blame the one who leaves, but it's harder to look in the mirror and admit that you were the reason they had to walk away in the first place. Leaving wasn't about giving up. It was about choosing to stop fighting for something that wasn't healthy anymore. You can't blame me for wanting to take care of myself. I didn't want to leave, but I reached a point where staying meant losing myself completely. So I chose to walk away, and I'm finally starting to breathe again. It's painful to leave someone you still care about, but sometimes it's the only way to save yourself. Don't blame me for choosing to protect my heart over staying in something that was hurting it. You may see my departure as weakness, but it was the strongest decision I've ever made. I walked away because you made me feel invisible, and I refuse to stay in a place where I'm unseen.